asking me as a citizen of a troubled time, then my responsibility as a citizen is to glimpse the end or the extinction of this particular kind of citizenship.
Hi there. My name is Dean Walker. I'm founder of online resources called livingresilience.net and the online video learning series library called Deep Academy there at that website. Not to mention the podcast Poetry of Predicament. And that, of course, was a brief snippet of Stephen Jenkinson, so very well known for his work as a palliative care counselor and now quite a remarkable poet and philosopher and musician of sorts. I am including Stephen in the center of this particular video, not because he endorses my work here in Living Resilience. In fact, he knows nothing of this particular video or my work at this point. I have had the pleasure of interviewing him over the past few years, but this is not about him endorsing my work or even that there is that direct a connection between his work and my own. What I include Stephen's interview segment with Rebel Wisdom in this video for is that there's a directness, a boldness, a truth-telling that I see very rarely in these times. And it's the same kind of truth-telling that I felt in myself as I put out my book in 2017 and called it The Impossible Conversation. It really was my entree into what I quite affectionately call these days the collapse-aware community around the world. And I'm going to play you a few segments in Stephen's talk here. And I think you'll see that he does not mince words about how he sees humanity and our performance as co-earthlings on this planet, not to mention stewards of some kind on this planet. He, in this next segment, talks about the extinction of this kind of citizenship, the kind that we've been expressing, particularly in the past 200 years, and I would say especially in the past 50 years, here as human beings on planet Earth.
My sense is, after 65 harrowing years on the planet, that people rarely do their best. Sorry to say it out loud, but there it is. If this is our best, what we've done to the thing entrusted to us, God Almighty, either we're not doing our best or God help us, this is our best. I'm going with, I think, the more humanly benevolent vision that we're not doing our best. That's the first thing. And so we can't fall back on the idea that left to our own devices, we'll get it straight. We are being left to our own devices and we're not getting it straight, you see? So we're going to have to be defeated. My vision, is the sooner we're defeated, the better for all concerned. Do I know what that looks like? Am I not aware that there's all kinds of wreckage of various kinds that will ensue from what I'm saying? Yeah, man, I don't have the blueprint, right? But if you're asking me as a citizen of a troubled time, then my responsibility as a citizen is to glimpse the end or the extinction of this particular kind of citizenship. Mm-hmm. Our regime has no business being in the world. This is a demonstrable fact. It's not an opinion, it's a fact.
This is about the point where Stephen Jenkinson joins with fellow activist and extraordinary voice in the world today, Greta Thunberg, by really just speaking truth to power and speaking truth to an otherwise oblivious world, when he's clearly calling on the fact that in the past 40 years, we have done nothing but intensify and accelerate the human-caused collapse of both Earth and human systems. And that's directly during the time when scientists have been telling us till they're blue in the face that our ways are not sustainable, that we would incur immense and irreparable damage eventually if we continued on this track. Well, we have done nothing but continue on this track. So that's the finality with which Stephen Jenkinson is talking. That's the difference between someone who's in the collapse aware community and someone who's somewhat environmentally aware and still holding on to some of the illusions of this time and of these past 40 years, the immensely controlled narrative that wants to maintain, sustain this business as usual culture.
Even though the likes of, and I really adore Jordan Peterson, but when he continued in the old days, seems so long ago now, to favor the developments of the West and so on, I think I understand why he would do so, but he has to ignore certain other things at his peril in order to make that case, sadly. So again, I learned this thing at the death trade. So you really love somebody who's dying? Yes. Do you think they're dying? Do they refuse to be dying? Or are they dying? Because the answer to that question determines what you do next. So let's say they're dying. They don't agree that they are, but they are. They're in the early stages of it. What is the etiquette of your relationship with them? How do you conduct yourself as if what's happening is happening? That becomes the question for a dying person in your household, and it becomes the same question for a time like now, where we get to glimpse how utterly exhausted our acquisitive way of doing things has become. So what do you do? And the answer to my mind is you bear faithful witness to the realities of the dying. And you orchestrate yourself in the presence of the dying, not to spite it, not to overcome it, and not to pretend it's not there for the sake of mutual comfort, but to risk it all, to risk the relationship, the friendship, whatever it is, and fail to conspire with the idea that there's more time. There isn't more time. And that confers upon this time a real sense of urgency. And if I really love you, I'm going to be with you as if you won't be around much longer. Right? And how that makes you feel in the short term, well, it's going to be wild and strange, and we don't know how to do it. We don't have an etiquette for endings in a culture that doesn't believe in them. So it's one of the reasons I guess I ended up doing that book, is to try to advocate for a sense of, you could say, fundamental etiquette, existential etiquette, an etiquette of kind of radical love about what it means to seize something down. That's the phrase I came to use to describe it. And that's what we have to do now. We have to be willing to see our regime down. Of course, it means living with a lot less, including a lot less certainty and no sense of safety. I mean, my country embarrasses me as they whine and mule at the government for the sustaining handout instead. Look, man, this situation was completely anticipatable. It's unprecedented, but it's completely anticipatable. Okay, now you've had a taste. How many more tastes you want? Don't make a meal of this. Push away from the table now.
And something else that
There's a lot to unpack in what Stephen Jenkinson has just been saying. These times are like no other in human history. There's no one that knows how to do this one. There's no one who's got the answers. There's no guru to turn to wisely guide us each step along this very dangerous path. But I tend to agree with Stephen Jenkinson as he says that this is something that absolutely has been anticipated. Not only is this an opportunity to love each other and love our relationship with Earth at a level we've never done before, as I think he was saying, but this is an opportunity to not just endure or not just see this regime down, as he likes to call it. Yes, those are tasks we really must do. And we'll either do that awkwardly by refusing to listen to the wise counsel of Mr. Jenkinson, or we'll do it consciously with each other. And it has been the purpose since day one of Living Resilience Deep Academy and the Poetry of Predicament podcast and all of our other offerings is to gather together all of the best ways and means of bearing witness to one another as we face our mortality, which really has been the case for as long as human beings have been on the planet. It's only in the delusion of the past, particularly the past 100 years, where we have literally forgotten, done everything we can to forget our own mortality. And then further, to become oblivious to our own destruction of our own home. It's really been an extraordinary ride. And this is the time to call on all of the most powerful teachings, the most powerful wisdom traditions that people have known for millennia. And they have faced their own existential level dilemmas over these millennia, using these wisdom traditions to find a deep aliveness, a deep connection with the web of life, a deep connection with the primary sources of meaning and relationship in human life that we have long ago forfeited. Those being a connection with deeper self, with other people, with earth, and with soul. So that is the work of Living Resilience Deep Academy. And you'll find a link at the in the show notes of this particular brief video. And I invite you to come check out what we've put together. This is essentially an opening to a community of practice, if you're so inclined. That might be a little premature. You may want to just try out, what is this stuff that you're talking about? So follow the link, take part in the initial introductory offering, and take a look. See if this is the kind of community with the kind of boldness of telling and living the truth that Stephen Jenkinson was just talking about, and bringing the best of themselves, bringing the best of ourselves to this, the most important conversation and the most difficult challenge that humanity has ever had to face. If this turns out to be a fit for you, then welcome. And we look forward to having extraordinary times together, sharing in the grief, sharing in the frustrations, sharing in the rage, sharing in the deep, gorgeous joy that it is to be human beings facing such a remarkable predicament together, heart to heart, face to face. If this is not a fit for you, then I sincerely wish you the warmest of blessings as you pursue your own path in these extraordinary times. See you soon.
Keluru do que